Did the 49ers take their first steps towards maybe, possibly smoothing things over with Brandon Aiyuk? I think they did. Plus, what are a couple of additions that John Lynch can make over the next 40 days to put the cherry on top of the 49ers roster? We'll talk about it all on today's Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard Podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrero alongside Michelle Majuk. Looking fabulous today, Michelle, in your George Kittle jersey.
I just got it delivered yesterday. It's my first 49ers jersey I have ever owned. I went with George Kittle. It was a hard decision between Purdy or Kittle, but I felt like Kittle deserved that respect. So I went with him, and I'm loving it. I love this red. It's a great red.
Now that you are a 49ers fan, first and foremost, I like that you're now wearing the jersey. You are in the fold.
I'm totally in it, yeah. I got to take that Watt jersey off the wall.
That's right. He might not even be on the Steelers. That's a whole other thing. But on today's show, we're going to get into a little of the Brandon Aiyuk situation. John Lynch went on Pat McAfee yesterday, and I think tried to smooth things over. Matt Barrows was a guest on 95.7 The Game. He kind of told a different story. We'll let you hear both sides. You can make up your mind. But the Brandon Aiyuk thing, I think, is really interesting because he's doing all of the things that you would like to see him do. But then there's like little posts on social media that make you shake your head. And I just think that there is some tension there still. And I think that the 49ers were smart to address it. And the way they addressed it was Pat McAfee had John Lynch on the show yesterday. And McAfee took about a minute and a half to ask the question, but he eventually asked, what's the relationship like with Brandon Aiyuk? Here's what John Lynch said.
Relationship's good. You know, Brandon's been here. He had a tough injury. He everyone saw that play against Kansas City. It was crushing for us because Brandon's such a big part of who we are. You know, looking back on the Brandon situation, I think every situation that you go through in life, in football, in this job, it's a learning opportunity. I look at things like that, like what could we have done differently to have made that a little more seamless and be contentious. There's things that I learned that would we have done some things differently? And I think Brandon and I have had these conversations that are there things he would have done differently? Absolutely. But one thing I think in families, you have little spats and then you give a big hug at the end and you work together. And that's where we're at.
Okay. For the first time, I feel like someone officially representing the 49ers said, we could have done things differently. We could have been better. And I do feel like that is the first step. When you fight with your spouse or your boyfriend or a friend, somebody has to take the first step towards the thawing out of things. And I feel like that's what this is.
It's about time, right? It was a nice relief to hear that, just to say, I mean, he didn't take all the blame, but he did just say, there's ways we could have probably made this process easier. And we're now seeing the effects it could have on these players and their emotions. And we need to take steps to fix that. And I thought that was huge of John Lynch to say. Kyle Shanahan would never. He would never admit that. But, I mean, we talked a lot about this on our show on Wednesday on Bleacher Report. It's about, I think Aiyuk's issues right now, it's just the emotional human element of it. That's really what I'm taking from it. I don't think he's being a brat. I don't think he's being, this big-headed star wide receiver. Like we get a lot of these guys, right, with their attitudes. I think it's just the human element of it, with him being upset with the way they treated him during the contract situation, him upset that he has to recover from this really terrible knee injury, upset that he's not at the ability he once was before this injury, and he's working through that. And then the team just tearing him kind of down this whole offseason, saying they were upset they paid him. This has to be a lot going on in his mind right now.
I completely agree. I think we overlook the human side of that. And I don't care if you have a lot of money or a little bit of money. If someone, a company that you work for that's supposed to believe in you, immediately says after retaining you that they regret it, that they wish they could get out of it, it's going to hurt. It doesn't matter how many zeros are in your bank account. I think people like to go to that. Oh, just ignore it. What do you care? He's a person. He's a human being. No one likes to hear that. Now, to be totally fair, Matt Barrows was on 95.7 The Game yesterday. Here's what he said.
Is all the water under the bridge settled between the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk from last year? I don't know about that. I do a podcast with Tim Kawakami, and one of his themes is that there's still a lot of hurt feelings over that. I mean, they tried to trade him, but that impulse is still there, and that tells you that things still aren't great.
And I think that's the reality of the situation, right? It's not like, oh, everything is all better now. And it's not, I'm as mad at you as I was when we were trying to negotiate this contract. It's, hey, I still really don't like the way that went down, but time has gone by. We have to move forward together because they have to work together for at least part of this year. And so I think they're just kind of, you're not still mad. You're not fighting, but you're still mad.
I also feel like right now with them coming out and saying like, we love Brandon, we want him here, he's a big part of our team. Like, I think that's what I was saying they needed to do a couple days ago, right? Like sometimes man just needs to feel loved. Anybody just needs to feel loved. Feel the love and say like, we're excited to have him. Like give him motivation to work through this injury. I mean, it sounds like he's doing great through the recovery process. So I'm saying like it has to be grueling. It has to be hard. So just give him the love he needs and deserves, and it'll all be fine.
Chris Waddell, thank you for the super chat. Chris says, the regret it trying to get out of it story, where's that coming from? They publicly have said it was a waste of money. I'm confused. Well, Kawakami and Matt Barrows all offseason have talked about how much the 49ers hate it. They've written about it also. How much the 49ers hate that deal, how much they regret it, how much they wish it didn't happen. Mike Silver wrote about it as well when he talked about Kyle Shanahan potentially losing power, how Kyle ran up the stairs and stopped Brandon Aiyuk from getting traded. All the 49ers are leaking to these reporters how much they hate the deal. So it's not like the team has officially come out and said that, but that doesn't mean that they haven't let their feelings be known.
I mean, and the whole offseason is about how Jed York, doesn't want to pay out these big contracts because it seems like he's pretty upset by how some of these recent contracts have gone. And I mean, it's hard not to point to the Aiyuk contract, right? No, Jed York didn't come out and say, oh, I regret paying Brandon Aiyuk fully, but it very much seems like he's holding, some animosity against that. And the whole story about how Kyle Shanahan, like they were right there about to trade Aiyuk last offseason, and Kyle Shanahan kind of had to run up and stop that trade. So it just, a lot of things have come out about how this team and management clearly felt about Aiyuk when they were going to pay him or not pay him or trade him. And then about how Jed York has felt about money and about him giving, out bad contracts.
And as I said, look, this comment from Oscar, you would think the bank deposits would appease someone, hate me and give me $20 million. Again, it's easy to say that when you don't have $20 million, but I promise if you think that nothing someone says can bother you if you're rich, you're not paying attention. The richest man on the planet gets bothered by everything everybody says about him. If he doesn't have enough money to prevent that, nobody does.
Yeah. And it's just like, also he has a lot of money on the line too, right? So yes, he got this contract and it's a big contract right now. It's not even close to all guaranteed, right? And when the team is already talking about regretting that contract, that makes you then worry that you might not get through your contract. You might not make all the money that you signed, or, another team might not want you. Like there's a lot of things going on here. And also maybe he's worried that he'll never get back to where he was before the ACL. I don't know. There can be so many things going on. I don't think this is him being a bad locker room guy or anything like that. I just think it's the human element. And if the 49ers just keep, talking him up and having conversations with him and making sure like he knows they want him there, I do think this relationship will end up being just fine.
If you're watching on the stream right now, you can see Brandon Aiyuk's contract. It's not even that bad. His cap hit this year is $10 million. His cap hit next year is $15.3 million. That is incredibly reasonable if, and this is a big if now, Brandon Aiyuk can get back to playing where he was before the injury. Now, that is the key thing. But if, let's say Brandon Aiyuk wasn't hurt, right, and he produced like he did in 2023, this contract would look great for the next couple of years. Now, there's a decision to make in 2027, but as we know, a lot can happen between now and 2027.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying too. If they're already talking about regretting his contract, Ayuk probably knows that he could be cut and not get a good chunk of this money.
He'll probably, I would assume, unless he's just can't play anymore, he would probably latch on. But yeah, he could lose some money in the process. His cap hit goes up to $41 million in 2027. They can get out of it if they were to release him, and they could, if they traded him after June 1 or cut him after June 1, the cap hit goes down even further. They could restructure a whole bunch of an infinite amount of possibilities could happen before 2027. But the big thing is that the 49ers kind of, I think, in my opinion, have tried to smooth this out with BA. John Lynch also went on to talk about Ayuk's recovery from the knee injury.
Brandon's doing a tremendous job coming back. These guys that are incredibly skilled athletes, they tend to heal a lot faster. It's kind of incredible how well he's healing. And, he's putting in the work. We're proud of Brandon, and we're looking forward to him being part of this team moving forward. We made a big investment in him. We're proud to have him part of our franchise, and, looking for big things from him. And we're going to let him get right before we get him back on that field. But he's an important part of this team.
We're proud to have Brandon Aiyuk on the team. Yes, thank you for saying that publicly. Stop acting like he's, this horrible person done something wrong. It's about time.
I think right now they're realizing what Aiyuk needs, right? They had Frank Gore and Patrick Willis and Terrell Owens all talk to Aiyuk. Like, I feel like they're realizing what's going on here. They need to get, him back where he feels confident and comfortable with this team and feels safe with this place. And that's what it seems like John Lynch is at least doing.
It's so weird. As Shermanator Zero points out, do you remember how excited Kyle was when he drafted him? That was the 2020 draft when everybody was at home and Kyle was fist pumping in his office after they drafted Brandon Aiyuk. He was excited. And then immediately he put Brandon Aiyuk in the doghouse and started giving his targets to Trent Sherfield. And they have never just clicked. I don't know. Like, Kyle has always loved Deebo Samuel, right? Like, remember when before Deebo signed his deal, they were like, hey, can you fix this with Deebo? And Kyle was like, yeah, because we're like best friends. Like, he had no problem. And as soon as Deebo signed the deal, they were good. Like, they had no problems. Kyle has never had that relationship with Brandon Aiyuk. And Aiyuk even talked about how they sat down and they had to hash it out because Kyle coaches receivers hard, and BA thought that Kyle was picking on him. And I think that showed that he does need kind of a gentler touch, like you were saying. He does need to be shown the love and talked up. And it's weird that, like, it seems like it's taken them so long to figure that out, but maybe now they have, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some sensitive people out there. Brandon, I might just be a sensitive guy, and that's okay. And then also right now, I mean, they don't have Deebo anymore, right? And they do desperately need Brandon Aiyuk to come back and be putting his all out there for them. I mean, unless Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, a bunch of these young guys step up, they really need Aiyuk to be all in on this team.
Strawberry React says, if Kyle really ran up and stopped him from being traded, shouldn't Aiyuk at least appreciate that Kyle wants him there? Yeah, he should. But since then, all the 49ers have talked about to reporters is how much they regret letting Kyle do that and how they weren't going to let Kyle do that in the future. Neat Rip Sports Cards on X says the 49ers hate the deal, not the player. Money grubbing talent mongers. Unfortunately, you have to pay talent with more than good vibes and enthusiastic emotional support. Who's the money grubbing talent monger? Are the 49ers? I'm kind of confused by that tweet.
Yeah,
probably should have read it before I put it up on the screen.
If anything, that's the owners, not the players.
Scotty D says, can we stop with the myths that Jed York does not pay? Name one owner who pays more. Ridiculous. No, what we said was that Jed was unhappy with paying out the contracts to Aiyuk and Bosa because they hadn't won the Super Bowl. He has paid people, but he let everybody know that he wasn't happy about it.
And he also let everyone know it was stopping. And he went from paying a ton of money out, giving out these huge contracts, going to sign free agents. And then all of a sudden this offseason, this team has so many holes across the board. And their biggest free agency signing is still Demarcus Robinson, right?
Yeah, and Luke Farrell.
Yeah. So they great. They gave the extensions to Brock and to Kittle and to Warner. They needed to do that. We're not saying he doesn't pay at all, but I mean, he definitely, I mean, he was not going to pay any free agents this year whatsoever.
And also, like, paying to re-sign your people is the bare minimum you can do as an owner. Like, if you're not going to re-sign Brock Purdy and Fred Warner and George Kittle, like, who are you going to pay, you know? So there's so many people that love to just glaze owners and give them credit for doing the bare minimum. It's hilarious to me. Shermanator says it feels like there's a disconnect between the front office and the coaches. Well,
that's been this whole offseason. It seems like Kyle Shanahan and Jed York right now are very much clashing.
Jed wants a Super Bowl, and I get it. We all do. Now, I think that, like Kyle said, he feels a little better about things because they had the big draft class, but there's still a lot of unknowns with the draft class, to be sure. By the way, Matt Barrows also talked about Brandon Aiyuk's knee on 95.7 The Game, and his report was also positive.
I do think that he's coming along well from his ACL injury. I don't think they're going to risk him at the start of the season, but they're talking about that being a slight possibility, which tells you that he's ahead of schedule in his return. The knee looks good, and he should be back ready to go late September, early October, and then we'll see.
That would be nice. Late September, early October would be fantastic to get Brandon Aiyuk back out on the field.
Yeah, I wanted to pull up their schedule right now to see if there's like a time that makes sense for him to come back, like a big game. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up right now.
Yeah, so am I. I have the image, but for some reason I can never find it when I need it.
So like these first 4 weeks, like, see, obviously if he's not expected back for week 1, right? I know there's a slight chance, but that's just not going to happen. They don't need him for the Seahawks, Saints, Cardinals, Jaguars. Those first 4 weeks, like if he goes on the PUP, misses the first 4 weeks, I think that's okay. If he could be back by the October 2nd game for the Rams, Buccaneers, Falcons, Texans stretch, that would be pretty awesome. Now that week 5 game is a Thursday night game, I feel like it's hard to come back on that. So probably not. Trying to see here, like what would make sense. Our bye week is just so late.
Yeah, but you get the mini bye. Don't forget, they'll have the mini bye after that Rams game.
Yeah, so maybe week 6 makes a lot of sense to come back against the Buccaneers. After that, that little mini bye week.
I would love to get him back against the Rams, but I agree. That's just an unfortunate, turn of the schedule there. But if you could have him back for that, I feel like that, because that's the most important week of the season, in my opinion, is that second cluster of 4 games. If you can get him back for 3 out of those 4 games, that would be perfect. That would be ideal, quite honestly, for the 49ers. And again, that is also assuming that he is in a spot to be able to contribute when he comes back, that there's not going to be like a month-long ramping up period. He did post on Instagram yesterday. He's 7 months removed from surgery as of yesterday. So, I mean, it hasn't been that long since he had the surgery.
Yeah. And now a lot of ACL tears is about a 9-month span, but his was more than just a normal ACL tear. So We'll see. I don't think they should push him back for week 1. Let him have at least the first 4 weeks. If they can't beat the Saints with Tyler Shook at quarterback or the Cardinals, like even the Seahawks against Sam Darnold, if you can't beat those guys without Brandon Aiyuk, then this team probably is not going to be winning many games anyways.
I would like to know the Demarcus Robinson, like, what is the suspension? Is he suspended? How long is he suspended?
I know, it's so weird. They're like a possibility of a suspension, but like
the Rams said basically that he was going to be suspended. That's part of the reason they let him go. So like they were expecting it. The 49ers, 49ers beat reporters have talked about that. They're expecting it. Why don't we know? What's the NFL waiting for? We got to keep this a secret? Like, can we put that out there?
It's very, very weird. Yeah, there's no definite answers about that. You would think he would want to know, right?
Oh, I'm sure he does. Chris Waddell, thank you again for the super chat. Says, I'm not saying they shouldn't be nice to him, but they paid him a lot to do a job. Coddling him like a child is silly to me. I dare you to try that in corporate America. Sounds like, to me, he is a bit childish.
Well, he is. He's 27.
Well, also, being a good leader is knowing how to adjust your message so that it's received by the person that you're talking to. You may not like the fact that maybe you have to be a little more gentle with one person over another, but what you should care about is my message being received? Am I putting this person in a position to be the best that they can be and to help our organization the most. That's what
and very, very much the best leaders know how to deal with each separate individual and what they need. I mean, and maybe you just had terrible bosses, but there's a reason probably why that company had tons of turnover, right? Like leaders keep guys or don't, and good leaders end up keeping them. Like, yeah, if I heard that my boss was like, oh, can't believe we're paying Michelle this amount of money. Like, oh.
Right.
Like, yeah, I would be really upset by that. I mean, and I would say something about it, and I wouldn't just be like, oh, just sit back. Like, well, they're paying me anyways. Like, no, because I'd be worried I'm going to lose my job too. Like, no, that wouldn't be okay. If my boss was never giving me congrats, never saying I was doing a good job, was not wanting me to be like, never said anything about wanting me to be part of the team, and I was only hearing bad things. Yeah, that wouldn't fly.
Yeah. What if I went on another podcast and was like, yeah, Michelle's on the team, but man, I wish I didn't pay her as much as I do.
She's not worth her cost at all. Like,
I really regret adding Michelle. There's nothing I can do about it now, but man, if there was ever a way I could get her on,
I've been really trying to trade her to another podcast, but nobody wants her. So
I guess I've stuck with her for now, but I'll keep trying. You never know. Maybe I could fool someone into taking that Michelle. Oh, Scotty D says, Glaze owners, dude, there are good owners and bad owners. Eddie was the best. Jed is good. Your twisting narratives is cringe, in my honest opinion. Look, you wanted to slurp Jed York about how much money he spent. I think he's doing the bare minimum of what an owner should do. Is he the worst owner? No. Is he the best owner? No.
Right now, he kind of seems like a really scary owner with his money situation, with him getting involved with these other sports. It seems like he's running through his money a little bit and not able to pay free agents, which is a little scary.
The weird thing is the more Jed York is involved, the worse things are for the 49ers. It has been that way throughout his entire
And that's most teams, right? The more the owners are involved, the worse they are.
Yeah. Just sign the checks. That's all we need from you. Sign the checks, make sure the field is grass and in good condition. That's it. And Jed York has a good field in good grass. They just replaced the practice. They had like a turf practice field. They replaced that. That's going to be grass. Great. Thank you, Jed. Now get out of the way and let the football people do their thing.
That's what you'd like. But it seems like he wants to be more and more involved this upcoming year. I don't know. It's going to be such an interesting year because I really do wish they got the Hard Knocks. So we got to see behind the scenes.
Yes. It would have been awesome because we would have had the Aiyuk situation. We would have, a big topic of conversation so far has been the energy and the vibes and everybody's positive and upbeat. It would have been really cool to see that on Hard Knocks. Like to hear about it is one thing, but to get to see it for ourselves, I think would have been a lot of fun.
All I want to do is just see Kyle Shanahan and how he interacts with his players, and not just Christian McCaffrey or George Kittle. The players that how does he interact with Jacob Cowing? How does he coach him?
Hey, Cowing he's been getting love from everybody this offseason. Brock was giving him love. Kyle said that there's nobody that has basically had a better offseason and done more than Jacob Cowing. Like he's the training camp hero right now.
I'd love to see it. We need him to step up. Let's go.
We have a question from B Mills 1987. Fantasy football question. Hey, Michelle, 12-person PPR, keeping Jaden Daniels in the 11th and Bijan in the 1st. For my third keeper, Garrett Wilson in 15th or Malik Neighbors in the 3rd.
Oh, for it to be a keeper league, you want to keep Neighbors probably for a really long time. So I'm keeping Malik Neighbors in the 3rd.
Garrett Wilson, I've been on the Garrett Wilson's going to blow up this year train. I think he's so freaking good, but the Jets quarterback situation has been so bad.
DJ Moore was great with Justin Fields, though. Garrett Wilson can have a great year, and it's the 15th round. I just think for long-term in a keeper league, Malik Neighbors maybe will score close to what Garrett Wilson does this year. A little, I expect it to be a little bit more. So maybe, the 3rd to 15th round isn't great, but for I want Malik Neighbors on my team for the next 5-6 years.
If you have fantasy football questions, we'll take them. For anyone who doesn't know, Michelle hosts the Locked On Fantasy Football podcast as well. So she's a fantasy football expert. She's not in our fantasy football league anymore. She's exited the league. Did not like it. Did not like me as a commissioner. Has consistently badmouthed me as a commissioner every chance.
They don't take it seriously. They don't set their lineups.
I set my lineup.
I play in serious leagues.
Oh, I play in serious leagues. Look at you.
And the bare minimum is setting your lineups.
Look, if the other adults in the league get disillusioned and upset, that's their choice. They're the ones that put the money down. Chris Waddell is still mad at Brandon Aiyuk. They paid him to do a job. They also don't need to run his feet in the process, be a grown-up. Well, Brandon Aiyuk is doing the job. He's shown up to every voluntary activity. He's been at mandatory minicamp. He's been helping the young receivers in the meetings. So he is doing the job, Chris. So your whole thing about, oh, he's getting paid to do a job. He's doing it. He's going above and beyond. He's actually doing more than what he needs to do. So, again, I don't know why you're mad at Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, he's doing everything he needs to do. Again, guys, like when he's frustrated or maybe is a little childish, or again, I know 27 seems older, but I just think about my 20s and I'm like, I did the stupidest things. And also, like, it cannot be easy to go through this recovery process. And I'm sure he has bad days and good days. And just think about him as a human. That's all.
7 months removed from surgery. You know, going back to the whole, like, how you have to change your message thing. As a parent, I mean, you pick up on that really quickly. My son, my oldest, is 10, and he is very much a positive reinforcement guy. Like, you can do it. You know, you're doing a great job. Keep going. Maybe, you know, here's where you could do it a little bit better. My daughter, who's 5, is the complete opposite. She is very much negative reinforcement. Like, hey, that's not your best. You can do better than that. Or I don't think you can do this. And then she's like, oh, yeah. And then she'll go like, you learn as a parent how to craft your message and what message your kids will best respond to. And I think there is some of that you have to do as a coach as well.
Absolutely. And that's what I think Kyle Shanahan kind of lacks at as a coach. But it seems like John Lynch is at least stepping up and doing something in that area. Like, good for him.
Yeah, it's nice to see him say, we're proud of Brandon Aiyuk. He's a big part of this team. That's what the message should be. And there's no point in, like, you don't get anything out of not doing that if you're the 49ers, right? That's why I was so surprised when all those reports came out about how much they regret the contract. Nobody ever pushed back publicly, right? John Lynch or Jed York could have tweeted out, hey, we love Brandon Aiyuk. Like, there was no pushback by any of that. And so that's why these things just kind of fester. That's why you see when Julio Jones does a podcast and complains that he only got 4 targets in the Super Bowl when Kyle Shanahan was the coordinator, and then Brandon Aiyuk the next day posts a picture of Julio Jones on his Instagram. Like, that's part of the reason why that stuff happens, because there was just no pushback from the Niners. Now there is. So that's good. So maybe that they can, you know, recover, have a little chat maybe over this 40 days when everybody's doing nothing and patch it up, quite frankly.
Yeah. And I think they will. I really do. I think it'll all end up fine. And again, just looking at the schedule, weeks, if he doesn't come back in week 6, I don't know when we're going to see him. You know, if he's not ready by week 6, then it's like, does he not come back until after the bye? And you know, hopefully they're pushing for the playoffs.
The one thing that kind of works in the 49ers' favor is, like, let's say if Brandon Aiyuk is like, I'm totally done with this team, whatever, he's still got to bust his ass to get back on the field because he's got to prove that he has trade value, you know? So, like, at least that's works in the 49ers' favor, that even if it is irreparable, even to get out of town, he still has to produce on the field. So there's just no reason why both sides shouldn't get together and hash it out and at least get to a place where you can just get through this year. And then if you got to trade him after this year, whatever, you cross that bridge when you get to it.
And also a big concern is, you know, his production before the injury last year. Is that who he is, right? Like, what was that? What was that struggles? And we never really got to figure that out, right? Because no one's asking him about that now because he's going through the recovery and stuff. And we never got to see if he was going to turn around his season. But I mean, he only had 1 game over 50 receiving yards last year in his 7 games played. That's concerning.
Everybody needs to get on the same page this year. I think you could see it with Brock is very much a throw to spots kind of guy. He has to throw with so much anticipation. He needs to know where you're going to be and when you're going to be there. And I think that has worked out with timing. That's worked out in training camp and in practice. And if you're not there, I think it does suffer on the field a little bit. Why'd you make a face when I said that?
I was just laughing at one of your comments in the chat.
Oh.
I wasn't even listening to you. Sorry.
I said that Brock needs timing with these guys in practice and training camp because he has to throw with so much anticipation, even to somebody that's been on the team for a while. So if you're not there in camp, if you don't have the time to practice, the performance on the field does suffer a little bit.
Yeah, that's why we were so worried about this Ricky Pearsall hamstring injury. But it sounds like it's literally just about keeping him healthy. They're not worried about OTAs and that connection. They'll work on their connection either, before training camp. Maybe they'll do some of their own work together, Purdy and Pearsall. That would be great if they did it again. Or you just, you get all the time in training camp. But as long as Pearsall and Cowing can be healthy during training camp and he can work with those two, and Juwan Jennings, obviously, I do think this group can be fine. They just need these guys to step up just a little bit.
And that's the other part of the Aiyuk thing is the development of Cowing and Pearsall and maybe Jordan Watkins. If those guys all look good, then the 49ers would be a lot more inclined to get rid of Brandon Aiyuk if he still wants out of town, because they're like, all right, well, this is, we'll get something for this asset and we'll move on with the rest of our receivers. But if those guys all look bad, you can't trade Brandon Aiyuk.
It's looking like right now them getting out the Debo. I mean, they were still a year late. They probably should have traded Debo last offseason and gotten more, but it still looks like right now them getting anything for Debo Samuel may be amazing because Debo in practice is looking rough.
Did you see there was sort of the video that came out of Debo running the route? And I want to be totally transparent about this because I think I was wrong. But I responded to the video of Debo like running a route and he like looks slow. Like you're like, oh my God. And everybody was dunking on Debo Samuel for that, quite honestly. Here, let me throw the video up just so in case you haven't.
It looks like he's running in sand.
Yes, he looks like he's running completely underwater and you're like, oh my goodness, what is going on? Because you're like, this is a rep in practice, and why isn't he running harder? And is this as fast as he could run right now? And everybody was dogging him for that. Now, to be fair, part of that is his history, the fact that he does have a history of being out of shape, and he does have a history of being slow and not being able to get away from man coverage and all of that stuff. But George Kittle actually went on X and defended him and said, it's called group install when players jog through plays, knock it off.
Okay, I don't think he's jogging through plays. He looks like he's trying to sprint there. That last one, he is trying his hardest to sprint. So that seems like weird to me that he's just jogging then. He is like going.
Here's what I'm going to say. I don't know if it was a group install. I don't know if it wasn't.
No one else looks that slow in the field.
It very well could have been a group install. And this may be a case of, hey, I didn't know what I was watching when I saw it. I've never participated in the training camp, clearly. So I could be dead wrong about this. I want to be willing. That's why I retweeted the Kittle thing, because I posted my reaction. So if I was wrong, I wanted to make sure I put that out there as well. But Debo Samuel's history is what it is. And he's going to have to prove to people that he can get off man coverage and that he can still be in shape and all that stuff. That is the thing. That is a real thing. Whether George Kittle likes it or not, Debo does have that in his history.
And he's looking bigger and he looks slower than everyone else on the field. So if they are just doing that installment, that seems weird to me. And again, in that last clip, he clearly looks like he's trying to go his fastest. So that doesn't look like you're trying to jog to me. Like it looks like he was trying to speed up and he could not because he was just running literally under 10 feet of water.
He did look like he was running under. I mean, it's wild, but again, that's Washington's problem now, right? That's the magic of divorce. I don't have to care about Debo Samuel anymore. At least I know that all the 49ers wide receivers on the field are going to be working their hardest, and they may not be any good, but I know that they are going to be trying as hard as they can. And I don't care what anybody says. If you watch the film, when Debo Samuel was out there on the field, there are definitely plays that he wasn't trying his hardest. That is just inarguable.
Absolutely. It's like the Kyrie Irving of the NBA. Except less talented. Irving's actually super talented. He just only wants to play certain games.
Yeah, Kyrie Irving's going to make the Hall of Fame. Debo Samuel has no shot to make the Hall of Fame. That's the difference. Although, to be fair, everybody gets
everyone makes the Hall of Fame in the NBA.
The NBA Hall of Fame is like, all you got to do is dribble a basketball and they put you in.
Yeah.
It is cool to go to, though. Have you ever been there in Springfield?
No.
It's pretty
I've been to Canton, but
I have not been to Canton. I need to go.
It's all right.
It's just all right?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not a big history person in general, just in the world. I don't really like museums. I don't really, just not my thing.
You don't want any sort of education.
Like just looking at stuff, it's like, who cares? He wore this. Okay, cool.
She says as she's wearing a George Kittle jersey.
Well, yeah, I like to wear a jersey.
One more thing we want to talk about, because we are in the 40 days off between minicamp and training camp. There are some names out there that the 49ers could add to the roster. Jair Alexander is one. Jaylen Ramsey is another. Do you want to see the 49ers add anybody, Michelle? I would like to see a cornerback edition and a safety edition, and I'm not really picky as to who they are.
I want both, and I want it to be Jaylen Ramsey and Julian Blackmon. That's what I want. They desperately need to add a safety. We've talked a lot about that, but I don't think they desperately need to add a corner, but I do think it would make this group just top notch. If you all of a sudden, Renardo Green becomes your third instead of your second, and you got Diamador Lenore, Jaylen Ramsey, and Renardo Green, and we're talking about all three of those guys too have versatility to play both outside and inside. That would just create such an awesome dynamic group. And Ramsey, yeah, he's getting older, but he's still 30. He still has a few years, I think, left in him. He's still grading out great on PFF. I still think he is a above average corner, if not a top 10 corner still in the league. He's not going to be I don't think a super costly guy to go trade for. So yeah, I would love to get Jaylen Ramsey. And then Julian Blackmon is cheap, so I don't just go sign him.
With Ramsey, why does Miami want to get rid of him? That's the only.
I think Ramsey wants out.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
that's my only
Ramsey's holding out right now.
Yeah, and I understand why he would want to get out of Miami.
But also this is a team that should be trading away guys like this because they're not competing for a Super Bowl right now. They might think they are. They're not in the AFC. Maybe if they're in the NFC.
Yeah, they're definitely not.
So while you can trade away Jaylen Ramsey, get some stuff. But I think this would be a great addition for the 49ers. Now, if you told me Jair Alexander could stay healthy, then cool. Yeah, add him. But his health issues have just been so bad.
That's the thing with Alexander is I don't know how you could have confidence. I mean, 3 out of the last 4 years, he couldn't even play half a season.
Now, maybe you add him because you're not desperate for a guy, right? So you say, hey, we add him. And if he ends up getting hurt, well, this was going to be our group anyways. If he doesn't end up getting hurt, then we have an all-pro type of corner to play with us.
Well, then I really like it too, because then what you've got is instead of your defensive line always having to win right away to make your secondary look good, you've got a secondary now that can actually give your defensive line maybe some time to rush the quarterback and get to the passer because you've locked people down in the secondary. And so they have, more than 2 seconds to affect the quarterback. You have complementary layers on your defense.
Yeah. And I think with their, kind of just the depth on their defensive line, especially interior, we don't know what that's going to be like at all. You need to have either your defensive line be stacked or your secondary. And right now, those are two of our scariest, looking at safeties and interior defensive line. Those are the 2 scariest position groups on this team.
Look at you going hour when talking about the 49ers. It warms my heart, Michelle. Chris Waddell says, could Mike McDaniel come back after he's fired like Robert Saleh? I do think Mike McDaniel's going to get fired this year. I can't say because I didn't really think that Robert Saleh would want to come back and work for Kyle Shanahan, and clearly I was wrong because Saleh's the defensive coordinator. If I had to judge right now based off of comments that Mike McDaniel has said and reading the Mike Silver book, I don't think he'd want to come back and work for Kyle, but what the hell? I was wrong about Saleh. I could be wrong about McDaniel.
What would they need him for, though?
He was their, Kyle likes him. He was their run game coordinator when he was there, and then eventually the offensive coordinator. I think he's a very good offensive mind, but maybe
he would. I feel like a team would want him to be their OC, and he would have more responsibility elsewhere.
Well, that would be the thing. Yeah, he probably wants to keep calling plays, and obviously with Kyle, you don't call plays. Literally, that's Kyle's bread and butter. He loves to do it. And McDaniel probably, that's a good, putting aside the whole Kyle Shanahan part of it is just does he want to continue to call plays? I got to imagine it'd be hard to be an offensive coordinator and not call plays.
Oh yeah, that would suck. And then you don't get the credit for it and all that stuff. I'm sure a team would want him, right? And it just wouldn't make sense for him to come back to 49ers. Also, he's still a head coach. So us just talking like he got fired is, who knows?
He's going to get fired though. I mean, do you expect the Dolphins to be any good this year?
No, I don't.
The AFC is loaded with teams right now. I mean, I'm just going to look really quick.
They can finish second in the AFC North, but that's not saying, or AFC East, but that's not saying much.
Are they better than the Patriots? I'm not even sure. The Patriots might be better than them this year.
No, the Patriots are going to win like 4 games.
Okay, take that, Mike Vrabel. But I mean, Miami's not better than Buffalo. They're not better than Baltimore. They're not better than Kansas City. Are they better than the Chargers? I would say no. Chargers were a playoff team last year. They're probably not better than Denver. I think Denver's got a chance to be really, a pain in the ass team in the AFC for everybody. I don't think Miami's going to make the playoffs. And if they don't make the playoffs, McDaniel is not keeping his job because he was lucky to keep it this year.
Yeah. And someone said a lot depends on Tua, and that's so true, right? When Tua is there, they are just a much better team. And one concussion keeps him out for over a month, or keep him out for the season. So that's really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's had some really scary concussions. Manu brings up a good point too. Kyle might not want Mike McDaniel back after some of McDaniel's comments also. So yeah, I don't see it ever happening. But like you said, we're steps away from that becoming a reality. And hopefully, great. Dolphins could have all the success in the world. I want to see the friggin' 49ers have success. And certainly signing a couple veterans before training camp would make me feel a lot better than that. And like Julian Blackmon's got to play somewhere. How has nobody signed him? The 49ers is one thing. Nobody else has signed him either.
It's very odd.
I don't understand it, but whatever. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the show. Michelle, I always ask you at the end, what do you got going on this weekend?
I might go play some bingo tonight, like an old lady. And then I think I'm going to go to the Astros game on Sunday.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, there's a little bingo place around here.
You're going to spin the big wheel with all the bingo letters in it?
That's not how that works.
It's not?
Well, no, I don't know.
I'm not
they
up
just
to
call
date
it
Curtis
It
bingo.
goes real fast, but the beer's real cheap. It's a fun thing to go do. So might go do that.
All right. I got a little Father's Day golf outing planned for Sunday. Haven't gone golfing all year, so I'm very excited about that. It's Father's Day. Going to golf. Going to have a little adult beverage afterwards. I'm a very simple man for like Father's Day. Just give me like a fun activity with some good food and some good alcohol, a nice old fashioned. I'm a happy guy.
Love that for you.
Yeah, it's going to be
I hope you have a great Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know what? I feel like you're being truthful too. I felt that. Thanks, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, y'all.